everybody. It's the 30th of September, 2025. This is the Open Research Institute Projects Meetup. And what we do in this meeting is talk about what we have been doing, what we have planned to do, roadblocks that we need help with, and resources that we might need that ORI can provide. And we'll just go through and do a roundtable of this to start off the day, and then we can move into office hours and open conversation later on. So, Aaron, you have the floor.
Thanks, Michelle. So what I've been working on is getting the DVS2 encoder ported over to another platform. Last time I updated that I had compiled and was running on hardware, which is the ZCU 104. And the next step that I took was be able to configure the registers within the IP core, which I have successfully done. And so I can set the constellation registers and also enable the dummy frames. So I have positive control over the register sets. I was able to get, well, it was shooting data out of the output port, but the next step I'm going to take is focus on getting the data hooked up to the ADC, no, sorry, the DAC, because it's transmitter. And comparing what Everest had from the Pluto as my kind of reference, there's an RRC filter that is also needs to be implemented to work the transmitter. But I'm moving along. On another note, working on, so I was able to acquire an ADRV 9009. So I have that set up on a ZC706. And I was able to run the analog devices reference just to kick the tires and see how it performed. And well, it works. So the plan there is to implement using OpenCPI the ADC and DAC transceiver for a high Faria for that work. So those are two things that I'm kind of like looking into, and that's my progress. Yeah.
Thank you. That's huge progress. That's a familiar combination, and I'm very, very much looking forward to also mirroring the work and getting it up and running in our lab as well. And I don't have
It's the 9009, right? Because there's like 9002 and 9000. Is that the
yeah,
same?
it is.
Okay.
We have a ZC706 with the 9009 and then
Okay.
ZCU 102 with the 9002, the mobile version.
Okay.
Those
Gotcha.
are the
Okay.
two stations that we have. So this is a familiar setup, and we can duplicate the work and help with figuring things out and working forward. That's the hardware combination for the uplink receiver that we've sketched out. I'm hoping that we had a report for today, but so far I have a report of the person working on it just wanting to make more progress and and getting back into the swing of things. So nothing specific today, but that's the area that we're going to have to start spending a lot more time on in order to get the overall system demonstrated. So what we've been spending a lot of time on lately has been the uplink, opulent voice, and all of that. But very, very soon, this is going to be the sort of the place that needs the most amount of work is the uplink receiver. So that's what's coming.
Great.
Thank you so much. This is very exciting. Is there anything in particular that you need maybe or anything that's
Just time because it's really busy, but
yeah,
but you can't do.
we have lots of empathy about that.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest challenges is just keeping
Mhm.
consistent time and yeah,
Yeah.
understand. Awesome. Okay, and so I'll hand the floor over to Matthew.
Morning. Um, I don't have a lot of report this week as usual. I just try to keep this moment showing up as often as I can, but I'm hoping again still to get back into more productive activities. Um, on the framer, so it's the next step. So happy to do, um, and then otherwise just clean code and maybe start some more documentation. And I think there's some to-do items that need to be reviewed further. So to do, and hopefully I can get back in, especially as we're coming into fall. It's busy, but it'll get cold, and so it'll be less opportunities for out. So, um, so I didn't really have anything else.
Okay, yeah, I think you dropped out just a little bit, but I think we got the meaning of what you said a-okay. And yeah, there's a branch on your in your repository in the Pluto MSK for the to try to get Framer working. And the right way to do this is to follow your modem module approach and to have like the Framer as in separate chunks, especially like things like the forward error correction. Um, I'm taken a more kind of simplistic approach. I'm directly modifying MSK top, and then I'm going to probably have to either work with you or depend on you to figure out how to cut that up and to get it offloaded or exported out to submodules properly, because it felt I did not feel confident enough to do that from the get-go. And also, I needed to go ahead and just start messing around with it and exploring the framing process and adding more protocol to the HDL in order to see where the natural sort of lines of division would appear. Like we could split it up in like, okay, here's the randomizer, and here's forward error correction, and here's the interleaver. Like those could be three different things, and that the inclusion of those in the HDL could be controlled by a register that had almost an arbitrarily complex pattern, like what can be included and what not. In order for everything to work, whether that part is in or out, it has to be done kind of carefully. Like if none of this stuff is in there, then it should work as it did or like earlier this week. Stream, just streaming data in from AXI external. And so it'd be really nice if all of this stuff being kind of added could also be swapped in and out with just a register description to say, okay, include everything, include randomization or whatever. So that's one of the reasons why I just went ahead and started on a framer branch and then trying to figure out like where the natural divisions are. So apologies in advance because it looks like it's just this big blob of code that's invading MSK top, and the for the transmitter that means that the parallel to serial module is taking on like all of these functions for now, but that's not the permanent solution. It'll be modular, like you've uh, led and demonstrated and shown. So
Right.
not exactly sure where. Like some of it's like okay, we could all ball this up together. The whole framer.
Yeah. No, thinking about it, like the data interface should be its own module. It's right now it's on the top, and then the framer would be a module, typically, and FEC would be a module typically. So yeah, we can all partition that. The top is like the catch-all, so everything has to be put in the top eventually. So I think it's fine to put it in the top. It is, it's helpful if we can kind of delineate the functions, even if we put it all at the top for a moment, so it's easy to partition. But we'd be able to work through it either way. But I
Okay.
mean, like the AXI interface, we may not always have an AXI interface. It could be something else. So would be ideal to, the data interface should be modular as well, as the framer and the FECs and so on.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, when you look at it, it'll be messy for a little while, but it is foremost in my mind to to make sure that we do this cleanly, modular, configurable, just like the sort of the example that you've set with the rest of the design. But it'll be messy for a little while, especially it's now no syntax errors, but the things are not hooked up to each other. So the goes intas and goes outas for the framer are missing each other. So in simulation, nothing happens because, well, nothing is hooked up yet. But so that's the status as of yesterday. So it'll be messy for a little while. I tried to comment it out as much as possible, and I've had a lot of help with ideas and how to do this and it's been really good. So lots of progress, but it'll be messy for a little while. The eventual goal is to make it modular like the rest of the design. Look a little more grown up than my than it all being crammed into top. So anyway, that's a big part of my report. I think is this exact sort of thing. All right. Anything else, Matthew? All right. I think go ahead, Paul. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a lot to report for the last couple of weeks. I've been super busy with unrelated projects here locally. Um, as of my last report, I was working on getting control of the timeline in Dialogus so that everything happened when it was supposed to happen, and there were no race conditions that were difficult to outrun. And I think I had finished that I'd finished the coding about 3 weeks ago and some preliminary testing, and I was satisfied with it from that preliminary point of view. And I didn't want to move any farther forward until I had written down some documentation on that. And I'm nearly done with that now. I finally got some traction on that in the last couple of days, and I've got some notes, and I've got a beginning of a draft. So we'll have written down what that step forward was. But probably by the end of the, well, no, because I've got more stuff to do this afternoon, but in the next couple of days, I'll have something to submit on that can go into the next newsletter. Um, and then we'll be able to step forward. We've made a lot of progress on figuring out the the widths of interfaces and how they have to work in order for things to be uh, satisfactory in all the different ways they need to be satisfactory. And what we've settled on for the moment happens to be exactly what I coded. So I don't have a thing to implement to make that next step. But we won't be able to make that next step until some more HTML has been written in order to use the interface we just settled on instead of the one we've been using for a while without actually understanding it. At least I didn't quite understand it. Um, so that's where we are on that. That's going to have to move forward with a bunch of different steps made and ready to publish a little bit soon. I won't try to describe the stuff that's going to be in the document now. While I could give a pretty good preliminary summary off the top of my head, it'll be better to publish it in writing.
Yeah, understand. But yeah, while we're working on I think of most of the stuff that you're talking about, the AXI transfer size, for instance, those sorts of things, those sort that we discussed over the past couple of weeks, those are coming about, and that'll be done and tested and then described and all that. So we'll just keep working together and talking back and forth, and yeah, it'll be described in the newsletter, which we'll make a goal of trying to get that out in the next week and a half. So be plenty in there.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much for all the hard work. This is some tricky stuff, and it's coming together pretty quick. It'll be good.
Hope so.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And then so from my end, the things that I know about are our participation in the Future Geo for geosynchronous amateur satellite workshop. This was held immediately before the AMSAT DL symposium 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago or so. And there was a workshop hosted by AMSAT DL and ESA. And this is specifically about amateur radio satellite at GEO. the ESA looked at QO100 from AMSAT DL and said, wow, could we help maybe get things moving forward for a follow-on or a step up, an improvement? And the ESA has made it really clear that they want broad consensus, lots of people working on this, that they would really need it to be innovative, to kind of press forward. Um, their expectations are for a lessons learned from AMSAT DL about QO100. AMSAT DL has been selected to organize, to look through 3 to 4 different proposals for hardware. Um, and so we had 2 folks, 2 different people at the workshop, and fully participated. And the memo about that has been published. It's in our repository with a readout of all the different discussions and the specific things that were sort of in a brainstorm session that were then everybody wrote down all sorts of different things. There was 4 different stations for system design, questions about the system design. There were lots of different opinions from all different folks from all over the world, and those were clustered and then voted on. So there's a priority list now coming from the community. So there's just one workshop. There will be more, and this worked out pretty darn good. And we are definitely a candidate for being able to submit a proposal. Our proposal, the things that we've been working on, hypharia and opulent voice, that this type of design, regenerative or multiplexed microwave transponder, is on the more complicated side. So ESA would like to hear everything from linear transponder all the way up to the sorts of things that we're doing. And it's not one proposal, but they want to see 3 to 4. So our contribution has already been to stick up for, digital microwave multiplex, regenerative DVB-S2, S2X, digital uplink, flexible sorts of systems, adaptive coding and modulation, all of that sort of stuff. This was very well received, and we will keep working. So being included and showing off, the work that we've done so far, pointing to the published work, sticking up for open source licenses and open source methodology, very well received. International volunteer crew, all of this is kind of what we presented, and this was a really good experience. So there is not another workshop scheduled yet, but they're working on putting one together. There is not a launch that is associated with this program. This is a grant from the ESA. So no, they do not have a launch. However, we're now into the 3rd phase of this granted activity. And over the next year, we will start moving to the point of this process where we will start talking to people about launches and start talking about hosted payloads and possibility of hosted payloads. The probability of us building our own hardware is pretty low. It's not 0, but it's much more likely that this process will result in something similar to QO100 that is like an SHALE-SAT2 or 3 or 4, something that's that we specify and that here's the design, and that there's custom hardware that's built by a commercial integrator. So that's probably what will happen, but we'll see. So it's worst case, if absolutely nothing happens, we will have a substantially better set of documentation and a lot of feedback from professionals and regulators and people that are genuinely invested in amateur satellite at GEO. So it's all win as far as I'm concerned, and it was well worth the travel. We also gave a presentation about ORI, and specifically about like hypharia and the uplink receiver, and also about the opulent voice progress and our regulatory work to AMSAT DL at their symposium. So we were able to give a presentation, and we shared the slides. Slides are published in our repo and also through AMSAT DL. Opulent voice opportunities in space. It's made very clear to me that AMSAT DL would really like to test opulent voice through QO100, and hopefully we can get some EME tests as well. So we have multiple places that I think that we can talk to you about that. So that's exciting. That means finishing up the framer and getting all this stuff to work, producing probably a SIGMF file, delivering that, or producing hardware and saying, okay, here, take your Pluto and take this amplifier and get the station and this dish and all. So one or the other, but or both. All right. And then we heard a little bit from Paul about the Opulent Voice technical reports. There's a lot going on and a lot of progress here, and the details will be in the next newsletter in the next week or so. The Hypharia on the this would be the receiver on the satellite for all these frequency division, multiple access, Opulent Voice, and other transmissions links up with the polyphase filter bank channelizer. That the bones of that are pretty darn good. We have some excellent open source code here. Multi-rate processing is very popular to learn about and gives you a big leg up, both in your personal and your professional pursuits in DSP. But the rough edges need to be sanded off of this. I think that we made a lot of progress here early on with the DVB-S2 encoder that has gotten good traction and use in a number of different projects. And good is there's still some to-dos that need to be done for that HDL. But the usability and sort of the rest of the system, this needs some more. It has some rough edges. This is not really done. And so, like I said a few minutes ago, we're going to have to start paying a lot more attention to this and getting some more progress on it. So I'm very optimistic. We got a really good start and good backbone there, but the rest of the body of the work needs some attention. All right, and that's what I've got. All right, the floor is open for anybody else that has any questions or comments or reports or any resources that they need or anything of the sort.
Yeah, Michelle, this is Adrian. I had a question about your about the AMSAT DL. Would that be a launch for Geo over North America, or is this for more like for Geo 100, which is more Europe and that part of the hemisphere?
Oh, that's a really good question. The for the future Geo project, they do have a slide and a web page up at AMSAT DL's website that shows, I think it's 47-degree orbit, which includes Eastern U.S. They would really like for this to include more of North America. So that's kind of but that's a wish. That's like a, gosh, if we could pick a slot, then this one that includes Europe and at least some of North America. So there is no footprint that's settled on yet, but the goal is to have something that could include as much as possible. So while we were there at the symposium and while we were talking in the workshop, I brought up our work with straight to graveyard. So fighting over a geo slot, very expensive, and you have just one position. You're station keeping and at one slot in the ecliptic, right? There's an alternative for folks like us. So the amateur satellite service, we could say make a payload that would then go up with maybe a geo mission and then split off and motor our way over to the graveyard orbit and operate from there. So we had a meeting with the FCC and OET and the Space Bureau, and we proposed this. We wanted to know if that could possibly be something that the FCC would maybe not immediately reject. And that's what our goal was to get a feel to present this idea, because a commercial operator really wants a slot, a solid slot. And graveyard means you drift around. Now, drifting around for us is a good thing because of DX. So part of the time you'd be over North America and part of the time it'd be over, not North America, right? But it would give you more options, right? It would move around. And we worked hard on this, wrote a paper, presented reasons for it, and we got a really good outcome. So the word back was, if you have a decent mission and if you do all of the rest of the stuff, then no, we wouldn't automatically reject it. So that's what we wanted to know, so that we wouldn't spend a lot of time on something that the FCC said, no, you can't ever do that. That's just not allowed. So that was the best possible outcome. So I raised this possibility to the ESA, and this was heard, loud and clear, that yes, we should absolutely accept a posted payload opportunity to GEO, no matter what slot it is, even if North America never heard from it, even if it was exactly the same as QO100, because it helps amateur radio in general. We're all in this together. So good for them if they get another GEO. That's great. Something that drifts around a little bit more, or in graveyard, would help more people. So this was heard, and and understood. And I think that if we keep bringing it up and say, hey, might reduce the cost if we don't have to compete for very fought over limited resource of a geo slot, that we have this other opportunity that we can take advantage of. Our service would really actually jive with this pretty well. So that's one of the things that would kind of alleviate the pressure for a fixed geo slot that may or may not have North America in the footprint at all. So I hope that kind of answers the question. The other orbital possibility is a highly elliptic orbit. So we included that in our work as well with the meetings. The big objection to highly elliptical orbits right now is that the operators of the LEO constellations really do not like it when you cross their shells, their orbital shells, and they will speak up and push back on your license to try to limit you going through. And this is Starlink and OneWeb and Friends, and all of them really don't want. They view this as their turf. The altitude is what they have claimed in their constellation, and they're all kind of different altitudes. And so we said, well, what if we promised to never go that low? Well, it's a more expensive spacecraft, but what if we just say we stay above 1250 kilometers and go all the way out, way up high? So that was the other part of our presentation on orbits. And that got a really yes, if you do that, it makes our job as regulators easier. So we got best possible news on both of these proposals. So Future GEO is not really, even though it has GEO in the name, they are open to other orbits, and that may be it's a both and sort of situation. So it's not strictly just a GEO, although GEO is the goal, and will be pursued at the end of this process. The rest of the year is going to be spent in firming up the things that are happening at these workshops and to the lessons learned from the past 7 or 8 years on QO100. It's about halfway through its expected lifespan, which will probably be extended because that's pretty common for GEO spacecraft for their lifespans to be extended as long as they have the fuel. But we're at about the halfway mark for QO100. If another opportunity comes along, I think that we'll see them moving forward to support it as much as possible. But these other orbits and other possibilities really can reduce the cost and complexity and kind of alleviate the pressure of going up to GEO.
I haven't really kept up with it, but what about just the same thing as SKO 100, sort of a duplication of that, where it's a ham package in a commercial bus that's already going to a particular slot, not just a spot for GEO strictly ham, and so that would just be a package included in a commercial bus that's going up already for an assigned spot. Is there some kind of pushback on that, or to duplicate that?
No, that's what Future GEO is about. So when I say hosted payload, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
QO100. Just that the integrator or the company would have to be approached, the specifications and the goals would have to be communicated. QO100, the transponder for amateur radios, a narrowband and a wideband transponder, and the hardware was custom built for AMSAT DL. So it's a really neat system. The middle part of it, the amplifiers are essentially backup amplifiers for the spacecrafts. That's considered kind of off the shelf in the design, but the rest of it is is custom. It's a really cool opportunity and really neat. So yes, future geo, that would be the top kind of priority, would be getting another one of these sort of hosted opportunities to have, to do that again. But
So
there,
some of these other orbits are pretty unique. So that would it also be like a CubeSat that type of package for some of the other orbits that you're speaking about.
correct. Yeah, we talked, or there was a brief presentation about geo CubeSats, which is what Wally, Silent Key, that was very, very big part of our design and progress here. He was very convinced, coming from the satellite industry, that we were rapidly entering an era where like a 6U to 12U CubeSat can handle these orbits. So we could do it, and he believed that we could build it. So like I said, there was some cynicism or skepticism, I would say, probably not cynicism, that's the wrong word, but some skepticism that hams would be able to homebrew up a spacecraft for geo. But Wally was a very much an optimist on this score, and we are starting to see more and more smaller spacecraft missions to geo that are surviving and doing a good job. So who knows? The only thing that we can really say is that things will change and keep developing, and we just stay on top of it. Being included in this particular effort is refreshing and positive, and we will keep at it. And just try to keep proposing the sorts of designs that we're demonstrating. So over the rest of the year, the rest of 2025 is mainly documentation, outreach to the community, building up a kind of a body of people that are interested in this sort of thing, to want this to happen. And then 2026, ESA expects to start seeing prototypes. And I could not be happier to hear that. So, what we need to do is focus on taking what we do, um, everything from like the stuff that Aaron is working on OpenCPI, which is an incredibly powerful platform, to be able to showcase that work. Anything on Opulent Voice, anything on High Priority, anything that we are doing, and anything that can be demonstrated terrestrially or over QO100, those sorts of demonstrations, those sorts of prototypes are what they want. And not just the ESA, but I'm sure, um, you know, at NASA or whoever else might want to help us out to put up more satellites and more communications resources. So, I, focusing on actual demonstrations end to end over the air of what we do um, in 2026 will have uh, some very enthusiastic people looking at it, and I think that that's fantastic news. So really looking forward to 2026. This was worth the travel, and met lots of people that I've never actually met in person before, but I've been working with over email and Zoom calls for a long time. So it was a tremendous privilege to be included, and excellent opportunities that we have. So we can really show off open source digital radio and advanced stuff that we're doing. Yeah, I think the next 18 months are going to be pretty amazing. Do have to finish a lot of hard work though. It is, we are not doing easy things. It's tough stuff. So any other questions, Aaron? Or sorry, Adrian.
No, I think you answered most of them. I'm glad you had the opportunity to make the trip and present all those ideas and projects, and hopefully that'll advance the opportunities for ham radio. So thanks, appreciate that.
No, happy to. There's a whole variety of presentations from the symposium, and was all recorded, and it'll all be online. There was an excellent presentation from Thomas Telkamp about Dwingelo, the site. There was a fantastic presentation from AMSAT UK. And then AMSAT DL has a bunch of CubeSats coming out, 7 or 8 of them, I think, that are finally going up and be in orbit. There was a great presentation from one of the it's a team from Japan, so Japanese hams came over, and they have a similar site like Big Dish, and it's just so amazing to see how each large citizen science site has solved the problems that they have, and how to get a site like that up and running, the sorts of science and communications targets they pick. Uh, it was really good. So I'm pretty much an optimist. I think this is the best time for radio that we've ever had, and amateur radio included, like absolutely the best time. And after a day of watching all of these people from all over the world doing such amazing things, I left even happier than when I arrived. So it was really good. There's good things going on. It's tough work. There's lots of challenges. Some of the regulatory, insurance, um, technical challenges that other countries have that we do not have here, and vice versa. You really kind of, it makes a deep impression on you when you actually go and visit and see, and hear what people are dealing with. So, ORI will have an opportunity to work with a number of other places. There's things that we can provide that they need, and vice versa. So, I think the next year is going to be fantastic. One of the things that we did while we were there is Bockham is where this was held, so we actually got to be in the building with the big dish, and Thomas was able to connect Dwingelo and Bockham, and like remote in. So he's now able to remote in there, and also able to remote into the Allen Telescope Array. And he did. And I spent a day at Dwingelo, and then, the weekend at Bockham, and I got to see it work from Dwingelo side, and we got to see it work at Bockham. So over the week, everybody just, there was a big strides forward in collaboration and learning about each other's equipment. And there's a lot of similarities now. So there's a sort of a common approach with SDRs and being able to log in and run a receiver. And what this allows you to do is things like receive the Voyager carrier, which had not been done at Bockham since like 2006 or 2008. We were able to do this within a few minutes. So Thomas set up a B210 at Bockham, pointed the dish, and integrated, and there it was, Voyager signal, which is amazing. That was super, super cool. And then, yeah, a number of other things that we did. So I'll have a write-up about the day spent at Dwingelo and the stuff that happened, and lots of photos and things like that. So yeah, this is going to be a good year. Okay, well, thank you everybody for all of the wonderful reports and all of the hard work. Doing ambitious things, cannot do it without you. Very, very much appreciated. And so what we'll do is I'll shut off the recording, and then we can have open office hours until everybody's sick and tired of talking.